pleasure to be invited by IWSA, and it's truly inspiring to see people across generations continuing to learn. That's our biggest inspiration, to see all of you. And as you said, Sudha ma'am has been with you all since its inception, so that's quite something to see an organization being still led by their founders. So that's wonderful. We are looking forward to this being a learning experience for us. Just a little about us before we start. So Poonam and me, as Param ma'am said, we work at XRCVC, which is a department at St. Xavier's College, Bombay. At St. Xavier's College, in every academic year, we have about 100 plus students with disabilities. They are part of our regular college. They are students with blindness, low vision, hearing impairment, cerebral palsy, learning disability, autism. So they are part of our regular classes. And because Xavier's has a Jesuit ethos, since the inception of the department, which actually started to cater to college in-house students, the college has always felt that whatever we create for the college students should be available to the larger community. So since its inception in 2003, the department has always offered all its services and resources to anybody who needs them. And it is in that spirit we have shared inclusive best practices or helping people make more material, etc., etc. So we were very excited when you all contacted us, because one of the areas that's been of key interest and concern for us is accessible STEM education. So there has always been this understanding or misunderstanding, if I may say, that people with blindness may not be able to study the sciences. And that myth has existed for multiple reasons, because one, people did not know, people did not have resources in India. And over the last 6-7 years, we've done a lot of research where we now have college students in Xavier studying BSc Chemistry, Botany, Zoology who are blind. We have supported IITs in India now to work with blind students. So we are very excited to work with a leading organization like yourself, who's so active in the STEM space, not only just to start the partnership to build your learning garden to be inclusive, but also as great leaders in the space, how can we spread this idea of inclusive STEM education? And we are really looking forward to that association building up. So without further ado, let me start with this session today. Today's idea that we had is, since all of you all are going to be in some level involved with this, making this learning garden accessible, we thought we'll spend the next 1.5 hours to give you a little snippet into how people with blindness first access visuals and graphics, right? Because that was the main concern, that question that had come to us. And then we will probably start giving you some tips of how to make this. And then as we continue, we can obviously further refine the ideas, okay? So to begin with, I want to request everybody to switch on their videos, if you don't mind, because the next activity that we'll do, I'll need to see your faces, yes. Okay, and for calling out, IWSA Learning has 3 logins, right? So if I need to address, the names would be, sorry.
Suparna, Tripta and Vijaya.
Sorry, Vijaya?
I'm Suparna.
Tripta and Suparna.
Okay, sure. So what we are going to do is, everyone has a blindfold. Can everybody show me their blindfolds? Okay, sure. Okay, and you all have paper and pen with you all, right? Yeah. No, don't wear it right now, ma'am. I'll give you instructions. Okay, so I'm going to request everybody to keep their videos on. Once you wear the blindfold, you will not be able to see me. And you are on mute. So for communication purposes, if I ask you a question and you're okay with it, give me a thumbs up. If you're not okay with something, then give me a thumbs down. And if you think that you want me to slow down, then tell me stop. Okay? So can we all do like a thumbs up for okay, thumbs down for not okay, and slow down is stop. Okay? Don't worry, they are very simple activities. We are not going to ask you to move around, so nobody will get injured or hurt. Okay? The only request I have is, if everybody, before wearing the blindfold, can you put your spectacles at a safe place, not on your desk in front of you where your material is, because I don't want your spectacles to fall and break. So just keep them somewhere where your hand won't go. The material, the paper and the pen you have kept in front of you. So don't keep your spectacles there. Keep your spectacles somewhere else. Okay. So is everybody ready to go? Can everybody say thumbs up? Okay. So, you know, one of the best ways to start understanding something is get a little experience of that world. Okay. So I'm going to request everyone to wear their blindfold. Great. Rita ma'am has a nice blindfold. And also try and keep your eyes shut so that in case there is some light or something loose is there, then you don't see through. And we are going to take 30 seconds to sit with ourselves and assume that we are someone with total blindness. You can imagine a story for yourself. You could have lost your vision as a child. You could have lost your vision as an accident on the way to work someday. You could have just had an accident and lost your vision, whatever be your story. Let that idea of the fact that you are somebody with blindness sink in. And we are going to let this happen for 30 seconds, so don't worry. I'll tell you when everyone's worn their blindfolds and everyone is looking good. Okay, so everybody ready to go ahead? Will you all tell me thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up. Okay, everyone's giving me a thumbs up. Okay, so we are going to now do some activities together. Okay, the first activity that I want you to do is, you have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you, right? So take your piece of paper and a pen and try and draw a circle on that sheet of paper. If anybody wants a trick, a quick trick, then if you're a right-handed person, put your left hand index finger at a point on the paper and start from there and end on that same point. That way you will be able to complete a circle. Okay, so try drawing a circle and then show me your circles on the video. Great, Madhu ma'am has already finished. Wow. Devki ma'am is also finished. Param ma'am is also finished. Great. You all are very fast. I don't want you to remove your blindfold, ma'am, Dr. Avikala. Please keep your blindfold on. I will tell you when to remove. Okay, great. Rita ma'am is also finished. Okay. Now I see some of you having books and some of you having loose sheets. For the next everybody is ready to start with the next activity? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. For the next activity, I actually need a loose sheet of paper. So people who are using a book, just tear one paper from your book. And since you all work with younger children also, I'm guessing some of you might still remember how to make a paper aeroplane or a paper boat. Anybody remembers how to make a paper aeroplane or a paper boat? You all might have grandchildren who you make that with. Okay, great. Some of you know. So those who want to attempt either a paper boat or a paper plane, please go ahead. And those who are not sure, try and fold the sheet of paper into a perfect square. When I say a perfect square, it means let the edges overlap and not out. So you can either make a perfect square, fold the paper into a square, or make a paper boat or a paper plane, whatever you like.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
I
Yes, yes.
have
No,
switched off my video because I am traveling
right.
in a cab. So I'm just
Okay.
watching.
Okay, sure, ma'am. Okay, great. Someone's already made a paper boat. Great. I'm going to wait for everybody else to finish. The Learning Garden team has already made paper boat. Great. Rita ma'am has stuck to folding a square. Yeah, no problem. Madhu ma'am is trying to make something. Don't open it up. Make it and keep it. Yes. Okay. Ravi Kala ma'am has also made a boat. Great. Okay. Param ma'am, what are you trying? Have you finished making something? Can you show me what you have made? Yes, you're trying to make a boat. Okay. Okay. Devki ma'am has also made a boat. Everybody likes boats more than planes, is it? Right now, planes are not safe for traveling. Everybody, we can go off onto a gateway and get onto a boat.
I would say people only remember making boats.
Yes, in Bombay with our monsoons, we did boats more than planes for
After
sure.
50 years, that's all that they remember.
Yeah. Okay, great. Has everyone finished? Can you all give me thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Y'all can slowly open your blindfolds. But there's one more activity which I want you to do with your eyes open. Y'all can open your blindfolds. Can y'all see the boats and circles you all made? If you have to rate yourself on 100, how much will you give yourself? Can people write on chat or unmute and talk? I'm okay with that.
Only
100.
I
Only
can't make
50.
better than this. I can't make better than this.
Yeah, yours is as good as what you have made with Sai. Yes, Madhu,
Yeah.
and you would give yourself how much on 100?
6.
6 on 100 or 6 on
No,
10?
no, 10. 6
Ah.
on 10.
Great. What would Param ma'am give herself?
What, for the boat or for the circle?
Both.
Circle.
Both.
For
combined.
both, 4 out of 10. I think
Okay.
4 out of 10.
Y'all are quite harsh evaluators. I would give you all 7 on 10, everybody.
Wow. Honest lady.
Come out all right.
Very honest.
I want 10 out of 10. I want 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so I want you to do one more activity, okay, which is you still have your paper and pen with you, right?
Yeah.
I'm
One-
going to now
Same
give you a
pen,
description.
same paper or second paper?
Same paper.
Same paper, there is no space.
Okay, then you can take another paper.
Or open up the boat.
Yeah.
Up the
Yes, you
boat.
can open up the boat. Yes. So I'm going to give you a description and I want you to make a drawing based on that description, okay? I'm going to give you 2 descriptions. So the first description is you have to, the image is image of 3 cube blocks placed one on top of the other crookedly.
Oh my God. Crookedly.
Yes. So that's
With-
the first.
That is
first,
with the blind.
drawing I want.
With the blind or without blind?
No, without blind.
Image of what?
Oh,
Image of 3 cube blocks placed one on top of the other crookedly.
Okay.
Shall we start now?
Yes.
same size blocks?
I'm only this much information is available in the description.
Okay.
Image of 3 blocks placed one top of the other crookedly. Madhu ma'am, you don't have to wear the blindfold to draw it. You need to
Oh.
draw it with sight only. Huh.
Okay.
And after all of you have drawn, just show me the picture. Let everybody finish first.
Can
Can
you
you
see?
see my picture? I have no idea.
Yes, I kind of can. Okay. Okay, so I can see Devki ma'am's pictures and I can see Vijaya ma'am's pictures. I can see Sweedle's picture also. Can all of you see each other's pictures?
No. I think we have to make it bold.
Have you seen mine? Madhu?
You need to go to change. Yeah. So everyone has drawn something different.
Did you see mine?
Make
Yes,
it
I
bold.
can see everyone.
You have to make it bold so that we can see each other's.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can see.
Neha, can you see mine?
Yes. So some people have put the cubes diagonally. Some people have put it one on top of the other. Some people have put ada teda. Everyone has taken a different interpretation of what crookedly is. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you another description, and I want you to draw based on that description. Okay. My next description is saying. Just a second. Yeah. Image of 3 cube blocks of roughly 1 inch each, placed one on top of the other, such that the middle block is jutting out. So I want you to draw based on this description now. So we are saying image of 3 cube blocks, roughly 1 inch each, placed one on top of the other, such that the middle block is jutting out.
Proportion is not correct.
Okay, great. Everybody wants to see? Okay, nice. Nice. Okay. Great. Can you all see now the similarity between all your drawings? It's much more similar compared to the previous one, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So how was your experience? Would anybody like to share the 10 minutes that with blindfolding that you tried to draw a circle and to do a boat? Were you able to do, in your opinion?
To some extent.
To some extent. Param ma'am
Yeah.
wants to unmute?
Yeah. I got your tip later that you have to put your finger and then break the circle.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
Before that,
I will say that the first activity was okay because it is quite simple. In the second one, you know, I was having a lot of overwhelming thoughts. The first thing is, there were things like, I was forgetting probably.
Correct.
And then I say, okay, is it like, that was also different. And why is this not happening? That
Correct.
type. So those thoughts were also coming. So there, the distraction was even more. I wanted to complete the activity, but at the same time, and then I just kept on thinking that what it must be for the people with the, because even that first 30 seconds when you say imagine a story, that also was
Correct.
disturbing. It was disturbing.
Correct.
So it already gone into that frame of mind, which was, overwhelming
Right.
us. That is
Right.
what I would like to share. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Anybody else wants to share?
I thought since you have given that instruction of keeping your finger, I said things are very easy, not difficult. If you are blind, you can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
That
Anybody else wants to
helped me a lot. Yeah.
all the three,
Okay.
I think all the 3 blocks, I was worried they may fall down.
You know what I thought of? I
Yeah.
thought of the fact that at least we can open the blindfold and see what we did, right
yeah.
or wrong. The poor blind people, they won't even be able to see.
Correct.
They'll have to wait until
Yeah, the right
somebody
circle,
can see.
right circumference is there or not. That was the only curiosity.
Correct.
Yeah, each
Correct.
activity requires a lot of attention for when you don't see it.
Correct.
Yes.
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 My question is that all of us assumed that we went blind in our lifetime. So we know what a circle is, what a cube is, and what not. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
born without vision, how do they do a circle and a cube and other?
Yes. So I think what I would
I
like to say is
realized-
that yes. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
realize that you can't be blind and deaf at the same time.
Right.
If you are hard
Right.
of hearing, you can't be blind. You have to watch the
Right.
person talking.
Okay. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I think all of you have shared very relevant points. What I like to bring to your notice is each person had a different emotion, right? Somebody felt overwhelmed. Somebody thought it was not difficult at all. Somebody found one task difficult, another task easy. And emotions are very personal. And each of them are correct, right? Because they come from the people that we are. So when we look at emotions, they are very varied. But if I ask you, this is the first time that you are doing these tasks with your eyes shut, right? You have never tried to draw a circle or make a paper boat with your eyes shut. And as Madhu ma'am said, that with just one little tip, you thought that it was going to be. So now imagine a person for whom blindness is a permanent condition. They have already overcome their emotions about the matter and they've gone on and learned the methods to operate. So now it is not any longer difficult for them as we might imagine it to be. It feels difficult to us because we have never operated without sight. But for someone for whom it is a permanent condition, they have gone ahead and learned ways in which they can operate without sight. So sometimes it's very important, and this is the basic principle of inclusion that we always tell everybody, that don't devise inclusive solutions based on our emotions. Because as people with sight, we might have very different emotions for people with blindness. We are not saying whether those emotions are right or wrong. But if we design interventions based on emotions, we might go completely off track based on the actual need. So when it comes to designing inclusive solutions, we need to do it in line with the reality of the person's life, what they need, what they can do. And because in our world, in society, unfortunately, inclusion has not been that active. So as teachers in your work or as researchers in your work, chances are most of you may not have met too many blind people, or most of us might not know blind people personally. So we might have a lot of pre-assumptions about their lives. So we should not design interventions based on those ideas. We can do it based on some facts. And currently the idea is to give you a little bit of exposure into the how of a blind person's life. Because we don't know, right? Like as Rita ma'am said, we don't know how a blind person who's born blind from beginning, how will they learn shapes? Like you had learned a circle, but how does a blind person learn shape? So those are things that we'd like to discuss over the next half an hour or so. Okay, so I'm just sharing a PPT now, which will cover some of these areas. Okay, you're able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I? Yeah. Okay. What do you all think of the paintings that I've put up on the screen?
I don't see anything.
Are they good, bad?
Very
They're
good,
good, bad,
very
or-
good, very good, very good done.
Yeah.
Where's the screen? I see only you.
No,
No,
we can
we
see
can-
them.
Would you?
You
We
must
can
have
see.
no highlighted.
Ah.
We can see.
Would
It's very
you
nice.
have
Yeah.
Very nice.
imagined
I can't see.
blind painter would have
Not blindfolded, no? Mm.
They are very colorful.
No, very expressive. I can see the faces. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Would
Ah,
you
yeah.
imagine
Mm.
that a blind
They look very natural, very
painter would have
natural.
Yeah,
painted?
very expressive. They are talking to each other. The three cowboys. Oh.
Neha ma'am, your voice is not coming through.
I can't see the picture. What am I supposed to?
She must have pinned it. She must have pinned on her name. Madam,
Neha
just
ma'am,
go.
your voice is not coming.
Yeah.
Neha ma'am.
There might be some network issue on Neha ma'am's end. So the question with this slide was, can you imagine some blind painter painting this with some colors, and the person had some understanding about this picture, etc.
No, we can't.
Amazing.
We
Amazing.
can't.
Amazing. Yeah.
So yes, these are the paintings. Those are made by somebody who is blind. One can visit their website and see that the painter has her own website, and she has painted it when she turned lead blind. She started having this. She wanted to be a painter when she turned blind, so she tried on exploring herself with the colors and the different textures of the paint. She that skill of painting, and now she is a good painter. She has her own website which we can look at. Let me share the presentation. Give me a
Training your brain from inward. My goodness. Yeah. We lost
Sorry,
What is
I
the,
realized
what is
when
the
I got
website?
disconnected. Sorry, hello?
What is the website?
hello.
What is the website?
Yeah, Neha has come. Neha is
Yeah,
back.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you
I didn't even realize when I got disconnected. I kept talking. Sorry. So till what part did you all were looking at these
The
pictures?
drawing.
We
Yeah.
were
Yes.
Drawings.
Yeah, so
don't
these are-
explaining this particular slide about, they wanted to know what that website is. So if you could share it.
It's called LisaFittipaldi.com. I will share it in the chat. She's a blind
Lisa?
painter by profession. I'll share the website. Okay. So you would have not imagined a blind person painting, but there are people with blindness who do paint. Okay. And there is a blind chemist who always says this about his work. And he says, is science the study of the visible or the invisible? I hear what you are saying about chemistry being a visual science, but who can see atoms anyways? Chemistry is really something that happens in our mind, and yet when we are working in the lab, maybe we need to see a color change to know that something happened, but that's something an assistant can tell me about. I don't need to necessarily to be able to see, to think and understand science and understand chemistry. And this is very important. As scientists, you all would be aware that the eyes are only our camera, right? Our visual processing is happening in our brains, in the occipital lobe. So for a person with blindness, the only thing that differs is their input becomes their hands rather than their eyes.
Right.
Oh.
You're taking the information through another sense, and your brain is still processing visual information. So the world of the visuals is not barred for people with blindness. The way it is inputted and the way it is processed becomes different. So that's the only thing that changes. So what Rita ma'am was asking, that how will a blind student from beginning of their birth learn about shapes? They will learn about shapes through touch. So what you and me see as round as a circle, they would have taken like a rectangle and felt it, and somebody would have taught them that this is a rectangle. So the method of learning is different.
Yes.
Okay, Asha ma'am is asking a question saying, how will they learn about color? And that's again a very important question. How did you and me learn about color?
We were told
By
this is
seeing
green,
them.
this is
saw it.
green.
We saw
Somebody
it.
told us.
People
Somebody
told us
told us.
that
Red
this
is
is
red.
Someone told us, right? somebody would have told me that this is blue, then I would have thought this is to be blue.
Exactly.
So for us, the color got matched with a visual cue for the information that we were getting. For a blind person, the color would get matched just as informational cue. So they will know leaves are green and tree is brown and sky is blue. And that's just information that gets built up over a period of time. It's also important to remember that blindness is not one type of condition. There is a full range. So you have people with low vision, you have people with total blindness. Somebody who is totally blind could also have light perception. So depending on how, and some people are born blind, some people are late blind. So depending on when you have gone blind, your understanding of color may differ. I also know people who are born blind, meaning without eye lobes at all, and they've never had any light perception. With the information that they have built up, some of them tell me color is irrelevant for them, and some of them tell me that they process color in their head. They just don't have a way of checking whether that's the actual color in the outside world. So it's very different for each person. In inclusion, the second thumb rule to remember is that no two blind people are the same. Just as none of us are the same, right? Like if somebody said that all women scientists are the same, would you all like it?
We can't see your screen, Neha.
No,
Yeah,
we
I
can
have
see that.
stopped it. I've
I
stopped
didn't
it.
see the first picture. The first picture of colors, I didn't see it.
Yes, I will put it again. I'll put it again. I wanted to see your faces, so I shut the screen. So I was saying that just like we would not like all being categorized as women scientists because that would generalize things for us, right? Similarly, for people with blindness, they are all not the same. They are people first and the blindness comes later. So in your learning garden, you might have one student who comes in who's blind, who might be very eager, very interested to learn, and you might get another person who's just lazy. But being lazy or interested is a personality thing. It has got nothing to do with blindness. Okay. So that is again a very important thing to remember when you are creating any material, that your audience will be as varied as any other audience. Okay. So going to the next section then, I'll just show you those pictures again and then okay. Yeah, so these were the paintings that I was showing you. Okay. Right. So there are some key principles that we follow in making material accessible. Okay. And we are going to play a quick game in order to learn about these principles. Okay. So I'm going to put up 2 cards on the screen. You need to tell me which one you believe in. So one option is there is always one best way to do something. And the second is there are always multiple ways of doing the same thing. Which one do you believe in? First card.
Second.
Second. I believe in the second.
Second, right? So the principle here is sensory substitution. Okay? That there are different approaches that can be taken to achieve the same goal. And the use of one sense may be replaced with another. So what we discussed right now, right? That for a sighted person, yeah. So for a sighted person, they will see something with their eyes, but for a blind person, they will see something through their touch. So they are still going to be able to study geometry. One student will study it through eyesight and the other person will study it through touch. So that is the principle of sensory substitution. Let me tell you at this point, it is important to remember that blind people do not have a sixth sense. They will have better sense of touch or better sense of hearing, but that is only and only through practice. So if you are a right-handed person and you break your right hand, at the end of 1 year, your left hand will be better than what it was on the first day of the fracture. But that is only because of practice. It is not because God took away one sense and he gave you another one. Okay. So that's a myth that is there in our Bollywood movies, but it is not true. So one is that when we are creating material, we need to make sure that the material can be accessed in multiple ways and not just one way. So that is sensory substitution. Okay. Second is between these 2 cards, which one do you agree on? One is you are most likely to not to miss a call when your phone makes a ringing sound. The other is you are most likely not to miss a call when your phone makes a ringing sound and vibrates.
First
What?
one. First one.
Okay, one is ringing sound and the other is ringing and vibrates. Where will you not miss a call?
Second one.
Second one.
Second one.
Why second one?
He can miss in both ways. In
That of
both,
course.
in both the cases,
Yeah.
he can miss.
Yeah, but chances are what will catch your attention more?
Yeah.
The ring will catch.
Ring will.
No, second one, of course.
Second hand vibration.
Yeah.
And vibration, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the principle here is multi-sensory approach. Okay, that first we said is that you can study one thing instead of one sense by another sense, but you can study something better when multiple senses are used to do it. Okay, so when see even for sighted people, if I'm just speaking to you versus I'm speaking to you and showing you something, then two of your senses are engaged, right? Sound and vision. When
Obviously.
that happens, your learning is better. So even for a blind person, you can either engage only touch or you can engage touch and sound. When you engage multiple senses, it's always better. Okay. The third thing is I will learn best if I'm told something, or I will learn best if I'm told something and involved in doing things.
Second one.
Second one.
Second one, right? And here the principle is learning by doing. So like everybody else, even for students with blindness, they learn the best with doing and activities. So sensory substitution, multisensory and learning by doing are principles we can keep in our mind when we are designing material from the inclusive perspective. And the most important principle is this, that inclusion involves making the environment usable and safe for all, or inclusion involves making the environment usable and safe for students with disabilities. Which one do you believe?
The second one.
First one.
For all, including them.
Including,
the
yeah.
disabled.
No, the second
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that is very, very important since you all are starting this work,
Yeah.
that it is the first one. The principle here is universal design. If you land up creating your learning garden thinking of only the blind, then it will not be sustainable. Whatever is created from the inclusion perspective is usable by all. The design is universal. So I'll give you an example. For example, a ramp, right? A ramp is used for a person on a wheelchair, but it's also used by us when we are carrying saman. It's also used in department stores. So it's a universal design idea, right? So it's important to remember that when we are creating material now for your learning garden, we follow the principle of universal design. Okay. So any questions so far? So we are saying that whenever we are going to be making material with y'all, we are going to follow the principle of sensory substitution, multi-sensory approach, learning by doing, and universal design. So if anytime you are sitting to ideate as a team, keep these 4 ideas in mind. That how can I design this or redesign this, keeping these principles in mind. Okay. Any questions or doubts so far?
No.
No.
So by touching, one question, by
Yes.
touching the shape or the size or other can be, judged by the blood. But when it comes to the colors,
Yes.
differentiation, how
Yes.
that can
Yes. So that's a very good question, and that is what we'll address now when we are showing you the different methods in creating this material. Okay. So the principle that we are following is sensory substitution and multisensory. And now what are the methods that we can use to actually create this material? Okay. So there are 3 ways in which you can make visuals and graphics accessible to a blind person. One is what is called alt text, which is a description. 2 are actual models which you can touch, and third are tactile diagrams. And I will tell you about each of them, okay, in terms of what it entails. Now, alt text is, the description I gave you in the beginning of the exercise.
Yeah.
I asked image of 3 cubes placed on one top of the other to draw. That is what is called as alt text, which is alternative textual description of an image. Between the 2 descriptions I gave you, all of you were able to do a more accurate, consistent image with the second description. Remember, in the first one, I had simply said 3 cubes placed on on top of the other crookedly. Now, crookedly is a very subjective term. It could mean anything. But in the second one, I said 3 cubes, one placed on top of the other of 1 inch size, where the second cube is jutting out. So it's a very accurate, specific description. So if we are giving description to visual text, then we want to make sure that it conveys the meaning and the context of the visual item. So a lot of the information about color related to the images gets conveyed in the alternative text. Okay. The principles that we have to follow in writing an alt text description is you need to not describe decorative information. You need to describe information that is really linked to the particular topic at hand. It does not have to be full grammatical sentences. They can be short sentences as long as they make sense. You have to be concise. So include color and other details if it is significant to your topic. So for example, if the image was a house on a tree, house on a mountain, I may not describe the color of the house. But if the image was of a tulsi leaf, where the color green is important for the student to understand the tulsi leaf, then I will say that a tulsi leaf of green color is the image. So when you choose to include information about color or not will determine based on what you want to communicate. So be concise and be objective in your descriptions and use appropriate vocabulary. So depending on what the context of where the image is appearing, use the vocabulary that is linked to that context. So I'll give you an example. So this is a flowchart, and if I had to write a description about this flowchart, it would read something like this. It says, flowchart showing an arrow pointing from a drawing of microorganisms and fungi shaped like mushrooms, etc., to the word nutrients. Another arrow from nutrients points to the drawing of a garden with trees and flowering plants, with the sun shining in the background, labeled plants. An arrow from here then points to a drawing of a zebra called plant-eating animals, and from the zebra is an arrow pointing to a lion labeled flesh-eating animals. From the lion is an arrow pointing back to the organisms and fungi, indicating the cycle continues. So if this image was appearing in my written material somewhere, for a blind student, I would give such an image description so that he or she is able to understand the image. Okay, I'll give you one more example. Now, this is a painting at a museum, and the alt description at the museum would read, a side view of a girl standing on a muddy path with her untied hair and dress flowing behind her. Okay, do you understand the difference between this alt text and this alt text? The flowchart alt text is appearing in a textbook and therefore needs to be very specific. This alt text is appearing in a museum where the artistic depiction of the painting is what we want to convey. And therefore it doesn't go into detail of the girl wearing a red scarf and a black dress. It is the image that the artist wants to convey which is conveyed in the alt text. So what you choose to include in the alt text depends a lot on the context that you are using it in. Now, I'll give you another example. Sometimes what happens in museums is the museum itself has a very good description for everyone. So this is an example from, say, Chhatrapati Shivaji Museum. There is a coin and the description for all of us is coin of Chandragupta. The ornate script on the coin is Brahmi. In this coin, we see Chandragupta II in the act of felling a lion with a bow and arrow. The Brahmi legend below his left arm reads Chandra, and that around the coin reads Devashi, Maharaja, whatever. On the reverse of the coin is the goddess Lakshmi seated on a lotus. The legend on the reverse reads Shivrikama. Now, this description is long enough and exhaustive enough to convey what is on the coin. In such cases, I don't need to write another description for a blind person. So sometimes when you all are creating charts and things like that, if the description is detailed enough, you don't need to create another description for a blind person. So that is what is alternative text in terms of writing. Now, how will you write this alternative text on your charts? You can either write it in Braille or you can do audio labels. And if you are doing it in your physical garden, then it has to be placed at a standard height. So how many of you all know what Braille is?
4:30 க்கு பண்றோம்.
Is Braille a language or
அது கேட்டுட்டேன். Okay.
It's a
4
script.
o'clock மேலே சொன்னேன். 4:30 வரைக்கும் போய்டுமோ?
Language.
Yeah. So it's important to remember that Braille is only a script and it can be written in any language. So a different combination of dots make a different alphabet. So Braille is a script with 6 dots. So dot number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And dot number 1 is A, 1 and 2 is B, and so on and so forth. So Braille can be written in any language. So you can either write material in Braille, or there is a technology called a sonic labeler. And I'll ask Poonam to demonstrate that to you. Poonam, can you just demonstrate the sonic labeler?
Yeah. So sonic labeler is a device like pen, which comes with these labels, which are small labels, and the device allows us to record any label that you want to assign for any particular object. So I'm going to show you one example.
Select the label to record on. Recording start.
Virus.
Recording stop.
When I again touch it to the same sticker, it will announce what I have recorded as audio label for that particular sticker.
Virus.
Have you all heard it recorded virus as the label for this particular sticker? Then I can stick it on the image where there is a model of virus, or on any image that has virus ka model. So these are the tiny little stickers which can be stuck on the models and given auto labels for that particular model. And these
So when
stickers,
you all are designing the learning garden, you all can create these labels and stick them wherever description is, and a person can touch them and read them. Alternatively, you can also create what the museum does, which is the museum creates an audio guide to go around the museum, right? So for every display, it has a description of what is in the display. So you can write the descriptions either as fixed labels on the area, or you can create an audio guide as well. So you can do both.
These are weatherproof? Neha? Are they
You can
weatherproof?
put them in a you can put them in a laminated sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the sonic recorder, no? What is that? I mean, can
Sonic labeler.
labeler? Okay, fine.
Yes. Okay. The other way, so that is alt text, which is alternative textual description to visual content. The other thing is models and tactile diagrams. So when we talk about tactile diagrams, they are diagrams that are raised up so a person with blindness can feel them. Similarly, the models which we use in regular day-to-day work, these are 3D models which can again be used to explain visual concept. And I'm again going to ask Poonam to show you some that we use at the center so that you get a better idea. So Poonam, can you show?
yeah. So tactile diagrams comes in different formats. This is like the method in which we make the tactile diagrams gives it a name, kind of a thing. So this particular is a handmade tactile diagram which is done on a regular print paper. So the diagram is enlarged in a way that the student could fill, and every texture that the student has to understand is being used with craft material. So any craft material that we use can be used for making such diagrams, which will allow a person to touch and feel what that texture is. So for the neck part, we have used something different which feels different to the touch. The beak has to be hard enough, so the cardboard is used. This is how it is done for handmade diagrams. And for labeling, if you all could see, there is a transparent sticker stuck on print label, so the blind student could read what Braille label is and what this picture is about. That's how a handmade diagram is made. The other method of doing it is the machine-made diagram of the same soft copy that we have made for handmade can be printed on a paper which has a chemical coating on it. When it is heated through a machine, it allows to raise the lines. If you all could see, the lines are raised on the paper, which could be felt through touch. Again, the labeling part works like how it would work for handmade diagrams. So this also has braille label stuck on it with the sighted label for sighted person to understand what this label is exactly. This is another way of making diagrams. The other way of making the diagrams is using thermoform sheet. This is again a machine-made diagram in which this paper is raised. The diagrams are raised on the paper for a person to fill with touch. The labels are made in braille labels, so the student can understand what are the labels for any particular part and what is the title of the diagram, like that. One more way of doing a diagram is a braille sheet. So on this particular paper, the braille dots, like how braille dots are raised on a paper, the diagram can also be designed in a way that only the shape of the diagram can be raised, like how braille dots are raised on a paper. So you all could see the outline of the rabbit is raised like how braille dots are raised on a paper. Over to you, Neha.
Neha?
Will you also show them models, Poonam?
Yeah, sure. The other thing is this was regarding tactile diagrams. There are also toys or any science models those could be used. One of those are interactive models. So like if you all could see, this is a structure of a virus. So if the student has to learn what is the structure of a virus, this is an interactive model which can be dismantled and learned all of its parts. So it has all these parts labeled on it, and the student could remove it from the inside part and study all of its inside parts as well. There are also models and toys like this. If you could see, this is a model of puffer fish. If the student has to learn what puffer fish is, they can use models like this. And these are mainstream products which could make things interesting for others as well, not only to the student with blindness. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, someone was asking something.
Yeah, Neha, this is Vijaya here. I wanted to ask a couple of questions.
Yes.
One is, the Sonic labeler, is it available in the local markets?
No, there's a local vendor for it. So because it goes as an assistive technology, so we can share the details of the person who sells it.
Okay, thank you. And other things, when she was Poonam was talking about all these tactile diagrams and all that, can they be permanent displays? Because the demonstration was on paper and cardboard.
So then depends. Yeah, so it depends on which one do you want. So if you want a permanent display, then you could go for the thermoforming diagram that Poonam showed. That's on a plastic sheet, so that's all weather and it is permanent, so it doesn't degenerate.
Okay.
And the handmade ones we keep for things where a lot of extra texturing, etc. is required. You can keep.
Okay. So one can be used as a signage outside.
Yes.
And the others can be an indoor display.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So in continuing with some additional ideas, now the important question honestly is always in what to make, like between whether to give a visual only an alternative text, or to make it into a tactile diagram, or to make it into a model. That is a very important part of making inclusion effective. And that is a very important stage that it's something that you all will learn with time. But important to sort of remember that from now, that not every visual that you have is best suited for making it into a tactile diagram. There is a standard international guidelines called BANA guidelines, which I've already shared with the team. And it has a specific decision-making flow as to when to make a tactile diagram. So this is a starting point. The first question you ask yourself is the information a repeat of facts in the text? If it is, then you don't need to make a tactile diagram. So if the whole textual description is good enough for the person to understand the image, then you don't need to make a tactile diagram. If no, then would the information be meaningful in text form? Because some information is better described rather than converted into a tactile diagram. So if that information can be described more meaningfully than be felt, then again you don't make a tactile diagram. If this is no, where you can't describe it in text and you need something, then the important question to ask is, what level of visual discrimination or perception is required to understand that image? If that image is very complex and it involves a lot of 3D understanding, then you don't make a tactile diagram, because then you will go and make a model. So only if the image does not require too much 3D perception, then you will go into the next question. The next question will be that is the real object of that image either too small or too large or too dangerous to examine by touch? Okay, because ideally, if you can feel real objects, the best way to teach a blind person is to let them feel real objects. But it's only when they are not available, then you will go and produce a tactile graphic. Okay, so it's very, very important to make this decision tree for any of your topics before jumping into actually making the tactile diagrams. Now, if you have decided to make a tactile diagram, then there are lots of rules that we need to follow. One is you need to magnify the diagram. So what we see as small, for that to be perceptible to touch, we need to magnify it to at least an A3 or an A4 scale. Okay. On one A3 or an A4 page, you should not put more than 2 diagrams. Complex diagrams, you can convert the 3D into 2D, but if possible, we don't recommend 3D things to be converted into 2D tactile diagrams. Okay. Now, the important question that you said about textures. So what Poonam was also showing, that what we see visually, right, as feathers on a bird, or say on a plant, the bark is rough and the leaves are smooth. So all the textual perception which we are discriminating through eyes, we need to convert it into different textures on the tactile diagram. So again, there are standard guidelines on which fills to use. And in any one particular diagram, it is recommended not to use more than 5 contrasting textures, because otherwise the diagram becomes too cluttered in terms of textures. Okay, so I'll just show you, these are the standard fills that are recommended, and you need to make sure that you use not more than 5 of these textures to represent different things in your diagrams. Okay, if you want to use them as fills. From what Poonam showed you, what we usually do is we try to use different textured paper and not more than 5 different textured papers if they are handmade diagrams. These fills get used if they are those thermoform diagrams. Okay. And again, you can also show differentiation by using different kinds of lines. And again, there are standard lines which are already established internationally as to what are differentiating enough to touch. Okay, all this data I will give you, so don't worry. So these are just examples of tactile diagrams of paintings in museums where people with blindness can feel them. Again, these are 3D pullouts. And this is basically what usually goes well is if you're creating a tactile diagram, to also give the description of the painting which would be there in sighted for a sighted person should also be made available in braille or audio. Okay, so these are just examples. Now when it comes to models, again, we need to magnify them to scale. Textures, we need to make sure that we use varieties that actually represent the color and contrast of the image. And interactive models go a long way as well. What Poonam was showing, right? When you want to see the virus, seeing parts of the virus open up is very, very useful. I'm audible, right?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah.
Very clear.
Yeah. So these are, for example, say a Swedish warship in a museum. The real ones are not available to touch, but then they made replicas which are available to touch for people with blindness. Okay, or say this is like a topographical map. So what would be an image has been converted into a topographical model of a forest. This is a similar model that has been converted. If there is a architectural plant, then again, like what is available in an image can be converted into a model. This is a model of a ship. This is a model of a fort. So these are models that can be created. Okay. So the important part is that for each of your display areas, first we need to make decisions of whether they would be tactile diagrams, models, or alternative text description, and then go into designing them following the standard international guidelines. Okay. What I wanted to do with all of you today is probably discuss two of the samples that you've actually shared with me, and we could have a quick discussion, and based on whatever we've talked about today, what would be your thoughts on creating the inclusive solution for that idea? Okay. Would that be okay?
Yeah, say that again. I mean, whatever we did as an
So say for example this, right? Like you all have this one section on grandmother's medicine, correct?
Right.
Remedies, yes.
Remedies, yeah. So now from based on whatever we have discussed so far, could you all first share with me what would be your idea to convert this grandmother's recipe into a inclusive concept, keeping in mind the principles of sensory substitution, multisensory, learning by doing, and universal design. Whatever we create should eventually be better for everybody, not only just for people with blindness. So what could be some of the ideas of this grandmother's remedies to make it inclusive?
We had exhibited a similar thing in one of the exhibitions where we made a picture. Snelata Bowser, she's also here. She made a picture of the grandmother Ajibai, and using the medicinal plants which is good for the head, which are good for the eyes, those pictures and little bit of the plants were stuck there. So that is how, from the top to the bottom, she had indicated the different plants used on a poster.
Now if you have to make this poster inclusive for a person with blindness, this concept rather, so this is how you presented it when you were not thinking of inclusion. Now if you have to think of inclusion, the same concept of grandmother's remedies, how do you think it could be presented?
Maybe use a doll of a grandmother, a figurine.
I was thinking on those lines too. Yeah, grandmother.
Right. And maybe some
vertical
plants.
placement. Yeah, vertical placement, and on one side the braille. For description.
So that's a great idea, right? Like one of the things that could work is you could create an activity corner where you could actually put a pistol, that thing that grandmothers use, right, to make the medicines. You can actually put the real thing there, and either if these plants are easily available, put the real versions of the plant there with their labels stuck in braille or in audio, and then the description that is put up is the only thing that goes in text with either an audio description or a braille description of it. But then the person actually gets to feel and the description can say that grandmothers make medicines out of different plants which are available on the table. The medicines are usually made in pistils which are placed on the table for you to feel, and the plants are also laid out. So the person can actually touch the pistil and understand what it is, and touch the plants and feel what they are. If real plants are not available, we can make plastic or paper cutouts of those plants so that they don't keep getting degenerated. But that way, somebody could actually touch and feel and know what is, and when you place it like that, trust me, it will become very interesting for the sighted people also.
Yeah.
Because now the poster has actually come to life in some ways.
Yeah. So these are common plants, so they're easily available.
So that's even better. So if you can put the real plants, then it's even easier.
Yeah. And this poster was made by Suparna Kamath.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that could be like one such example. The other example that you had shared with me was this example of life cycle of a butterfly. This butterfly garden. What do you think could be the inclusive solution for this poster?
We can make cutouts of butterflies, pupa, and all that life cycle.
Correct.
And then
We had taught with props just the other day for our skills development course.
Right.
Tripta had made all these props, butterflies, eggs with gel.
Correct. Yeah. So again, what is important is for making it inclusive, on this poster, there's quite a bit of information. So say the life cycle can be either a tactile diagram or these models and cutouts. And then this part, which is like this in real life, where the pupa is hanging on a tree and there's an additional image of it, this can actually become like a model where the person can actually dangle. Because see, what is the idea? You want the person to know how the butterfly dangles on a leaf, right? So something which is a model where the person can actually touch and feel how the butterfly is perched on a plant or is dangling on a branch would actually make the whole thing very interesting. So
since it's also a life cycle, I think we'll have to also show the description, as you had pointed out, with these arrows and all, like in text, so that they get an understanding of that.
So the life cycle could be a tactile diagram with the description, and these pictures down could actually be additional reinforcement models.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are just two examples I wanted to discuss. We can always take this conversation forward when you all are actually working. And the two guidelines that are there, which are international, are one is the BANA guidelines for tactile diagrams, and the other is this diagram center guidelines for writing image descriptions. So whichever team is actually working on it, I would recommend that you all could go over these, and then we can figure out how we want to take things forward.
Okay.
So I would pause with that and leave it open to questions.
Neha, there is one question I wanted to ask. In the garden, is there anything we can, to direct them from one section to another? Is there anything we can put on the ground, so that they can, follow with their sticks, from one section to other? So there is no confusion.
Yeah, that's a very good question. There is something called tactile tiles, which we have put at Xavier's also. I will just quickly show you the picture of that. You can lay them out in the sequence that you want them to move around. Okay.
Great.
So, for example, you would have seen these now at metro stations also. These are standard tiles that come. Are you able to see the image?
Yes.
So these are straight line tiles and dotted tiles. A dotted tile indicates an intersection from where you can go in different directions, and straight line tiles means you continue on this path.
Okay.
So we can lay out this pathway in your garden based on whichever direction you want them to follow.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are
so
these tiles, can they take load? Are they load bearing tiles?
Yes. These are for outdoors only.
Okay, load bearing then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Even vehicles can move on top.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, like these can be laid out based on your layout.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or anything?
Only when we start working, we will know what are all the problems.
Neha, we had also shared one poster on the rainforest ecosystem.
Yes.
Any comments on that?
I've actually not seen it. I could look at it and then, meaning again, see, rainforest would be a great example. It would be best to create a model for it, because you want anytime when you're thinking, think what is it that you want to convey.
Right.
In the rainforest, what is it that we want to convey? The biggest quality of the rainforest we want somebody to understand is the denseness of the trees, right? And the fact that there are so many different types of trees and they are so densely put together. Now that idea, ask yourself which is the best way to communicate that idea in touch. The best way would be a model.
As I understand from your talk, I think that thing of topographical model, that also may work here.
Yes. Yes.
Especially
So the
Western Ghats,
topographical
Deccan
models would
Plateau.
really work.
I think for Western Ghats, Deccan Plateau, coastal regions,
Yes.
I think that topography thing would be very
Topography,
nice.
yeah, it would be very.
Yes, it will look very well. It is just that when you are designing, please remember the scale at which you design. So you don't want to put very small things next to each other. You want them to be at least significantly large enough for the touch to distinguish them.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can, yeah, and as we were talking with Maya ma'am, like maybe if the Xavier students are getting involved in making or helping some of these being made, then we can monitor that also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
That's
could.
what we look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's hope that everything really goes the way, it's been a actually an enriching talk. And if you look at the chat box, there are a lot of appreciations and, we could have an interactive session. A lot of people asked and you explained it so well I will just attempt a short summary and maybe you could add on if I have missed anything. So the first take home message is, don't design interventions based on emotions. Very, very important. It is, because everybody is like, what works for one may not work for the other person. And you gave a real life example of, the person who has actually got a website of the paintings. And in the description box, you have also shared the link, that is lisafittipaldi.com. I'm sure we are all going to, see that and appreciate it more. The second message was that no two blind people are the same. Like, they have their own fingerprints. Each one is very different and unique. And so you have to, incorporate that. This point is really important. And then Neha went into the, principles of designing, which is very important. Again, the fourfold principles, including, the sensory substitution, which is the first one, the multi-sensory approach, which is the second one, and learning by doing an activity is the third principle, and the fourth one is that of having a universal design with the feature of inclusiveness, where the same thing can be perceived and viewed differentially by all these people, all the learners together. And then it was very interestingly, the methodology involved was the tools and techniques used and the process design, how you go about doing the things, what are the various options that are available, like you could have alternative text or the models and tactile diagrams, all those were also explained very, very well, and we were made aware of the different types of descriptions, like, incorporation of Braille. You could use Sonic Labeler or the audio guide. So, very important take-home message is, let us first deliberate and understand what is the outcome, what really do we want to do, and, how it is going to really help, keeping in mind with the international and the standard guidelines. So this was something which is, even in our talks when we had earlier, we did not know this. So this is so very important, and that will really make these, what we want to actually put it in our inclusiveness project. It's so important to have its acceptability and the quality assurance of that. Now, so this feature of, adopting the standard international guidelines, which you are so willingly shared with us, I think that is your expertise, and we are really very thankful for that, so that, the reach out is not only going to be at the state and the national level, perhaps, even at the quality is assured even with the international status. So, and this is a very important feature and aspect for us. So thank you very much for that. And, so I'm sure it has been a very enriching experience to all of us. And right from, the very personalized way and the manner in which you actually, made us do some exercises and, that self-learning, like practicing and doing what you do, you never forget. That is, so therefore, thank you very much. And I'm sure on behalf of IFSA, and we really look forward to a wonderful, interaction with each other, so that, we can really, incorporate the principles of what we have learned today and the knowledge that we have gained into really fulfilling the objectives and make them really more worthy of the cause. So thank you both, Neha and Poonam, and it's been a wonderful session. Thank
I
you
would
very
like to thank you